Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I'm going to talk about a show that probably had every right, given its title, to be very chintzy, very stupid, and honestly just forgettable. And then ended up, in practice and execution, actually working out better than it probably had any right to. And the show in question is Higehiro. After being rejected, I shaved and took in a high school runaway. And yes, that is the title. And one would expect, oh dear, they're gonna do this thing. And you know what I'm referring to. And that is the elephant in the room, as you'd expect. But what about it? Well, it starts in the beginning. You have this salaryman, Yoshida. Nobody's ever told like what his thing is other than he works at a salaryman company. He's just a guy. A hard-working guy, probably the number 2 guy in the company other than the main boss. But his boss is important to him and they fall for each other, or at least he falls for her and doesn't know how she feels and whatnot. And the first 5 minutes are, okay, so Yoshida, voiced by Alex Hom, goes to meet Irie Goto, voiced by Sarah Roach. They have this kind of like working respect for each other outside of just being bosses. They do the typical thing of they go out for drinks and whatever so that they can kind of gab and whatever, but it's a private thing. And he ends up saying, hey, I like you more than just as a boss. I want to get to know you as a, boyfriend and girlfriend kind of thing. She rejects him, and he just, bleh. He goes and gets more drunk. And then later on in the episode, he finds this girl just sitting under a lamppost near his apartment. And the girl in question is Sayu Ogiwara, voiced by Jill Harris. And Sayu's thing is that she's 17 years old and she ran away from Hokkaido. I want to say offhand, I think he's in Tokyo. So Yoshida's apartment is in Tokyo, and he's 26. So you can already see the frustration and the thing building up in your head. You're wondering, oh, they're gonna do this, aren't they? They're gonna go there. But what I'm happy about this show is that it sidesteps every single stupid thing because they don't go there. They tease it, and funny enough, teasing it via Sayu is actually part of her backstory, because really the show at its core is this 28-year-old guy telling this 17-year-old girl, get your shit figured out. But as you slowly start to get the layers of things, you start realizing, okay, she's a sheltered, kind of spoiled brat, ran away from home for reasons that were unexplained until later, and then she just kind of slowly learns. He doesn't even, adopt her. I don't think they officially do anything because he's having to kind of do this in secret, But the whole, he takes more care of himself because she, takes over the role at his apartment. Again, 26-year-old guy harboring a 17-year-old fugitive girl, and sort of arranges that she takes the daily chores and does the whatever. But again, he goes about it in this workmanlike way. He doesn't fall for her advances, even though she thinks about it. Like, she early on will just say, "Do you just want to have sex now? Do you want to, And it keeps going up because that's the question that's going to happen over and over. And if this were a hentai, they would have said, they do it. And I've seen a show doing this sort of thing. I think it was Koikaze back when I was in my early 20s or whatever. And one, the whole cousins thing was bad enough. And then I forget if there was an age gap too. And I've been of the description that I think age gap is a reality. I tend to just believe that, if you're over 5 years older, or even 7, it's just no. Obviously, it gets weirder if you get like 10 or 20, but it's still like, come on, dude. It's a generation gap. Yeah. And then you just have the idea that she's in high school. Whatever, the show uses that to its advantage because, again, he takes like the first few episodes and saying, okay, we need to get you a phone. We need you to kind of get used to actually living on your own and not being like told what to do, but I need you to like make use of what you have here if you're going to stay here, because you're not just going to be a loafer. But you slowly kind of peel away the layers as, okay, she starts getting a part-time job. She starts making a couple friends. She starts seeing some people from her past. She starts to admit that she ran away from home because one of her classmates was bullied and they committed suicide. And she was not well respected by her family, who's this high-end like farming or pharmaceutical or food maker, whatever, a high-end company, makes a lot of money, but she gets blamed for the suicide and she runs away. But she basically just sells herself and prostitutes herself to other people. And that ends up being why she just kind of warps her mentality, because she doesn't know any better. And I do give the show credit for cutting through that little side, as a thing. Like, it informs why they would do that, why they would force the stupid fan service, because it's part of her nature, but the show is smart enough not to fall for it. And it also benefits because there's another side story that goes on where Yoshida, people start thinking, okay, why are you like more kempt? Why are you staying, going home on time? Why are you doing certain things? Why do you look and feel better? Irie notices it. And then another person, a subordinate of his, Yuzuha Mishima, voiced by Macy Ann Johnson, she gets the thing where she starts feeling for him too, almost in the same way that Goto does, but in a different way, because Mishima is like kind of stupid, kind of careless, and Yoshida's always taking care of her at work, and she's like, I'm a go-getter personality. You just go and do things. It doesn't matter. And you start seeing this like weird like love triangle of sorts happening, and almost like aside from the Sayu thing, but because of it, because Yoshida doesn't give a shit about Sayu in that way, and they start having feelings for him because they know that there's this girl in his life and they assume it's a girlfriend. So they end up getting in on it in different ways. Goto's personality is like sort of mischievous and sort of whatever and sort of, not standoffish, but above it and trying to stay out of things. Again, as the boss, as the director of the thing. So she finds out first and she's like, okay, well, let me hear your side of the story and understand why this is happening. And then she ends up admitting that she actually does like Yoshida, and then they're just like, well, what the fuck? You didn't... Why the fuck did you reject me? It's kind of stupid, after the fact. And then it's like, okay, now Sayu's in the picture. That complicates things more because she lives with the guy. It's like, that seems unfair. But again, she stands away from it. Yuzuha, on the other hand, is just like, dude, make up your fucking mind. Do you like me? Do you like Goto? Do you like this girl that's in your house? What the fuck? What are you gonna do? And again, the whole thing is like, their side of it feels, and this is one of those problems that I have, is like they're building this like love quadrangle that doesn't really do much to the overall story because they don't go anywhere with it. If this was I think that's the point of the show, is not to do that sort of thing, but to build the relationship of, okay, we're trying to figure out this whole Sayu thing. Do you like her? No, not in that way. Stop it. But then you start realizing that like later on in their life, it could be, okay, well, he ends up going for either Yuzuha or more likely Goto, and it makes more sense. But it's never like explicitly stated because the show is more about the Sayu thing and getting her back to where she belongs. So it does feel like a weird tangent to go on because they're trying to fill 13 episodes, which I suppose they couldn't have filled all 8 or 9 of the episodes with just Sayu learns to cook, Sayu learns to clean, Sayu gets a job, Sayu finds a person. You know, you're trying to fill space for 13 episodes because that's what you're allotted, and they have this like side story thing, I guess. And sure, I'm sure this was a light novel beforehand and they came up with that before, but it's like, you don't have to focus on a thing just because it's there. So it does feel kind of less important than it really should be, but I did find the characters interesting enough, and it's like Yoshida's a nice guy enough, and it's like, okay, I can see these two people falling for him, and then starting to feel like, why the fuck is this 17-year-old girl in your apartment? Explain yourself. This is dumb, you know? And again, the show is preying on that as like this sort of like love drama, but isn't love drama. It's trying to get you into that mindset because it is a cliche that they could have explored, but then focusing still on the Sayu thing, because the important thing is figuring out all of Sayu's past as she's willing to explain it and trying to build up the courage, because what really sets the show apart and why it works as opposed to why the title sounds so stupid is they save the good stuff for when it matters, and they save the intense stuff near the end when you have to confront, you know, Sayu being blamed for a suicide that she didn't cause, Sayu being ostracized by her own family, and specifically her own mother. So they're building this up, and they do the thing where it's like, when are they going to show up? Because you know they have to meet, and it's like one of those relationship things. It's like, you know that you have a bad relationship or a fractured home or a whatever, or you have a weird relationship kerfuffle. It could be anything, and you know you have to meet that person, but you just kind of dreading it, and you know it's like you gotta do it, but you're scared shitless that you're going to do it anyway, and it's like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And that like last episode or two is like what the show builds around, because it's trying to get you invested in these 4 or 5 characters that, again, don't really do much in their lives. Like, is Yoshida's life fully changed because this girl just happened to show up? Not really. It's Sayu's life-changing thing because she has to confront all these like weird teenager things that are pretty freaking bleak when they really go around it. And again, I think the show hinges on the fact that it exploits enough of the dynamic, the power gap, the age gap dynamic, but it doesn't follow through on it. If it followed through on it, it would be a worse show, and I would have felt, you didn't have to do this, and you suck. Because the characters are likable, and the drama is there for what it is. It's not some life-changing show, but sometimes you just want good characters doing good things for a few episodes, and I do respect a show that was willing to not falter for the goofy, chintzy, stupid, teenage, hentai bullshit. It plays with the dynamic, but it is smart enough to hit that wall without vaulting over it and being worse off for it. So I definitely like this show, and I liked rewatching it, and I would definitely recommend it. I think the characters work well enough that if you want something, I wouldn't call it disposable, but again, you're not going to get some amazing, just whatever. But it does do some things that I think elevate it way better than the title is given credit for, because it is on the par with some of the worst, dumbest, like light novel titles I've ever seen. So I was pleasantly surprised that the show is actually better than I would have imagined. But that'll do for this one. It was a nice shorter episode to talk about. But we've got the anime discussion wrap-ups for every couple of weeks, but we've got how I got into JRPGs and anime, Ys 8, The Art of Exploration and Progression. That one is so interesting to me. And then Golden Boy, talking about shows that go in a totally different direction, but don't overstay its welcome. It's all study. Anyway, that'll do it for me. It was a nice quick one this week, and I will see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.